Combating the Knights of Columbus. Using the Sword of the Spirit to reprove the Knights of Columbus. By Scroll Independent Ministries. Okay, so this is Chapter 3, Order of Business. This is all just kind of like showing the rituals and processes and ceremonies of these of the Knights of Columbus. But there's one interesting point at the bottom here, where it talks about balloting for applicants. It says white balls elect, one black ball rejects. Errors may be corrected by reballoting, right? Which is interesting because actually, when you turn to Freemasonry, it's actually they do a similar practice. This often even is done in accepting new members, right? So here there's a description from Wikipedia. It says blackballing is a rejection in a traditional form of secret ballot, where a white ball or a ballot constitutes a vote in support and a black ball signifies opposition. The system is typically used where an organization's rules provide that one or two objections, rather than at least 50%, share of the votes are sufficient to defeat a proposition. Since the 17th century, these rules have commonly applied to the elections to membership of many gentlemen's clubs and similar institutions such as Masonic lodges and fraternities. Wikipedia's words, not mine. Okay, next section. Okay, Chapter 4. This is for opening ceremonies. The captain of the guard will take the password, right? So password, please. The outer and inner guards take their places. The officers take their chairs. The captain of the guard takes the password. Both passwords are taken up in the chamber and outer and inner. Any ordinary lodge room may be used as a council chamber. So I'm sure that password is going to be a secret. They're not just going to let anybody enter into the chamber unless they have a password that is secretly given to them. A lot of secrets. And actually, I'll even play a little clip later just concerning, password please. Right? Very, very interesting stuff. Okay, this is officers in order of seniority. Right? So we are now engaged in the noble work of our order. Remember your promises and prove yourselves true knights, loyal sons of the Holy Mother Church. We will sing the opening ode, right? And that was said by the Grand Knight, right? So I'm not gonna bother reading it. You can read it for yourselves, but obviously it's in reference to their goals and their ambitions and to protect this free land. Yeah, for their own religious purposes, to bring under submission to the Vatican and the Pope. Okay. All right, Chapter 5, closing ceremonies. This is the Grand Knight talking to everybody there. He says, let your light shine before the world, that the world may see the beauty of the Holy Mother Church and be led to the unity of true Christian brotherhood. All right. I'd be more concerned about the light of Christ, as demonstrated in John chapter 1. Right. Also, 2 Corinthians 11 says that Satan transforms himself into an angel of light. Better make sure that you got the right light. Okay. So this is chapter 6, the first degree. So initiations are conducted in classes of 10 or more. The candidates are assembled in the anteroom. All candidates must have signed an application giving their names, ages, occupations, parish, and present signed statement of their priest that they have made their Easter duty or have been to the sacraments at least once a year. Right? So if you want to continue in the Knights of Columbus, you even have to attend Mass once a year. Right? Do you really want to be fellowshipping with unbelievers? Do you really want to be partaking of that what they believe it is? It's not the Lord's Supper. It's have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. Jesus did not ask us to be cannibals. The blood was to represent the New Testament. Okay, his body, the bread of life. That's in representation of his word. It was all of that was the death of the testator. I'm not going to get into this too much. I have made videos in the past talking about the transubstantiation. It's a lie. Okay. Council chamber. So the captain and as many guards as are necessary to go to the anteroom and line up the candidates. The lights in the council are dimmed, right? Because men love darkness rather than light. This is an illustration provided in the book, and they're all just kind of gathered around in a very dark room. Why do this? Where in the Bible does it say, okay, everybody, when you gather together in fellowship with one another, make sure to meet in the darkest room you possibly can? This is creepy. Okay, they sing a little song. Great. It says, when all have been lined up about the room, one light is allowed to burn dimly before the center altar. The Grand Knight will advance to the center and say, Grand Knight, gentlemen, before you may go further into the order of the Knights of Columbus, it is necessary for you to make an act of faith. Let everyone answer for himself. So, question, do you believe in God? I do. Do you believe in 3 divine persons? I do. Do you believe in the Holy Roman Catholic Church? I do. As in, I'm not saying these things, saying I do. I believe in God, yes. Okay, but I'm reading this, obviously, okay. Do you believe do you pledge yourself to obey the church and all that relates to faith and morals? Okay. What about the Bible? Okay. The church is supposed to be renewed and washed by the spiritual washing of the word. Okay. I don't need to obey any group of people if they are not themselves following what the Bible says. Okay, just as simple as that. This is more than a form of idolatry to just place all emphasis on what the church has to say. If you got a Bible and what everybody's saying is contradicting what the Bible says, let God be true and every man a liar. Okay. Do you pledge yourself to be a true knight of this order and to obey its laws at all times? Okay. And if you say yes, what can I say? You're very gullible. Grand Knight, it is well. Remember that you are Catholics, and for the future you will be Catholic knights. Always prepared to defend your faith and to give to those who walk in darkness a reason for the faith that is in you. Not one word of the Bible anywhere in that. And then, it's remember that you are Catholics, okay? If anybody's a part of this, mark them as a Catholic. Even if they're going around saying, oh, hey, guys, it's like, I'm so glad to be a part of your Protestant group. No, stop affiliating with them. Tell them to repent. Tell them to get out of it. Tell them they don't want to find out that they are a part of it anymore. And yeah, this is chapter number 7, and this is about the second degree. It says, at any given signal, they march into the council chamber to the sound of the organ. They are not blindfolded, but the chamber is dark except for one light over the center altar. Right? The lesson to be conveyed to them in the second degree is that most of them have no intelligent idea of what their faith consists of. They do not even know even the catechism. Okay, forget about the Bible. The contrast between their prompt avowal of their faith a few moments before in the first degree and the public exposure of their ignorance must be made as strong as possible by the officers of the council, right? So there's definitely a humiliation ritual that is being taken place here, and you find within a lot of secret societies and a lot of mind control tactics, humiliation kind of comes first. You definitely want to do that so that therefore you have more of an influence on them. The candidates must be impressed and stimulated to action so that they may in the future spend more time in studying their religion and learning its tenets. If they are ignorant, how can they expect to influence others and lead them into the church? So the Grand Knight says, brothers, you have affirmed your faith. You believe in Holy Mother Church. Are you able to defend her if necessary? Yeah, forget if even the organization that you're a part of is actually even biblical. Are you willing to defend if necessary? Even if they're wrong. So thereupon, candidates are called by name and asked to repeat answers taken from the catechism. If there are any priests among the candidates, care must be taken to avoid asking them any questions. Right? And then they make an example of some of these questions. The Grand Knight says, brothers, you have sworn to defend the faith, yet you have immediately demonstrated that you are unable to do so. Right? So shame on them, for not defending something that is really indefendable. You have failed in simple questions of the catechism. In former days, the clergy alone could instruct and guide the people, but today the laity must be militant educators and light bearers. So this is chapter number 8. This is the third degree preparation. Okay, so there's a captain of the guard in the command team, and there's a decoy priest. He wears the ordinary street dress of the priest with Roman collar and rabbi. A secret service man incognito, enough initiated members to scatter through the candidates and urge them to action. Interesting how they make people do this, and it's all on lies and deception. On the left there, you see all the costume that they're made to wear. It says, all members will wear black robes, entirely covering their regular habit, and will be masked. Okay. The Grand Knight will appear as usual, his ribbon of office his only ornament. In the center of the council chamber will be a table with surgical instruments and bandages. A small room leading from the chamber will be made as warm as possible. This will be known as the hot box or the HB. When all is in readiness, the Grand Knight will direct the captain of the guard to send his men to their work. The assistants go to the anteroom where the candidates are gathered. Their work is to stir up the candidates to anger if possible, using the decoy priest as a last resort. Okay, so yes, I can clearly remember in the Bible where God said intentionally anger and confuse people that are, professing Christians. Like, where on earth is any of this in Scripture? For these next chapters, I'm going to be doing a little bit more reading. There's some interesting information, and I wouldn't want to, like, let's say, gloss over this. Really, what this is ultimately doing, I believe, is grooming people to become more associated with these secret initiations. Right now, this is the third degree. This is the last degree that we will be covering. But then it's also important to keep in mind the fourth degree is the fourth degree is still secret. The fourth degree is not public, okay, according to their sources, right? And even then, it's like, can you really trust them? I wouldn't, right? Okay, so let's continue with what it says here. It says, often an old priest, if any priests are to be initiated, may be called to head the line. The assistants may try to confuse and anger him by mispronouncing his name or calling attention to his position. Generally, it is not wise to push the priest too far. Laymen are better subjects, and the dignity of the priesthood must be preserved. Okay. So you can push around everybody else. It's like, I'm sorry. No, this is still kind of like, you're deifying these people, right? And if you look into the these Catholic sources, essentially he's a representation of God, right? So it's pretty pathetic. The best method to obtain results is to treat the candidates as though they were a crowd of schoolboys who needed a severe censure for every move made. If a candidate does not obey any order given to him, such as to stand for a certain position behind his fellow line, to look straight ahead, etc., it is good to send him to the rear and hint that he may not be allowed to go on. Break the spirit of all, if possible, and make all obey timidly the smallest command of the team members. So they're basically using like fear and intimidation tactics on these guys that are really it's just to get into their heads. It's really kind of sad to be seeing this. So if the candidates rebel and refuse to go on, the captain of the guard will be called. He will enter wearing any seemingly distributable robe, such as a bathrobe, which has been soaked in whiskey, and giving the candidates the impression that he is drunk. The decoy members will artfully stimulate this suggestion. Right. So, the candidates must trust the honor of the order and its greatness, and bear with any seemingly strange methods which they cannot understand at this time. As a last recourse to stir up the candidates, the decoy priest will leave the line and walk away. The captain of the guard will angrily question him. Why are you leaving your place? DP, I am sick. I want a glass of water. CG, go back to your place. No one may leave his place for any consideration. DP, but I am sick, and I must have a glass of water, or I shall faint. CG, faint on. He orders his assistants to take the decoy priest back by force if necessary. Meanwhile, the Secret Service man slips away and comes back with a glass of water, which he hands to the decoy priest. As the decoy priest takes it, the captain of the guards leaps forward angrily and knocks the glass from his hand. Why? I don't know. Must be a Catholic thing, I guess. If the candidates have not yet gone beyond control, this always stirs them to fury, and they break ranks in angry confusion. Struggling and shouting against the insult to the priest. The decoy members of the team skillfully urge the stronger willed candidates to shout defiance against the captain of the guard and his assistants. They suggest that he is drunk and that it is an outrage. It is an insult to the priesthood. Many refuse to go on, and thereat threaten to break down the door and leave for good if they are not released. Some try to catch the captain of the guard, but are skillfully kept away by the decoys. The candidates are to be aroused to the last extreme of fury, but are to be handled so that they cannot do anything. 1 Corinthians 14, verse 33. For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all churches of the saints. What do you think is going on here? Confusion, violence, disruption, anger. It's like all of these different emotions. Where on earth does Christ come into all of this? Where does the epistles ever say to act like this? This is not biblical. And one could make the argument, it's like, oh, it's all, whatever, pretend. Then you're lying. You're using deception. This is not Christian. This is not biblical. And if anybody wants to defend this type of behavior and these types of actions, I'd be questioning them. Okay, I'd be questioning. It's like, okay, like, are you born again? Was it, be not partakers of the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. And this right here is darkness. I don't care if this is scripted. This is not of Jesus. There is something terribly wrong here. And you won't find any of this stuff found in the Bible at all. Okay, I'm moving on to the next chapter. So they are all blindfolded. Okay, there. Now you get the blindfolds. They put their hands on shoulders. The guards give the signal, the doors are opened, and the candidates march into the council chamber. The organ is playing. They are marched around the room several times and halted in a hollow square facing the center. The blinds are removed. The doctors are seated around the table, covering with surgical instruments, writing paper. The Grand Knight sits near the table. Here in the Scottish Rite of Masonry, illustrated, here you see what a person looks like when they start to enter into Freemasonry. They're blindfolded, right? They're wearing a weird outfit. They're also stripped of all of their belongings, so that therefore it's like they don't have anything to remind them of the outside world. But, blindfolds. Do we really need all this? It's ridiculous. And this really comes to show it's like men truly love darkness rather than light. And here, oh, yes, that's right. So they're all gathered around a circle, wearing like funny masks and robes. This is such a cliche within a lot of these secret societies. And yet here you go. This is the Knights of Columbus for you. I'm going to be showing 2 clips here really quick. And they're kind of to demonstrate a point. The first clip I'm going to be showing is from a movie called The Good Shepherd. It was with Matt Damon. Don't watch Hollywood movies. I'm not recommending you watch these. I'm just showing some clips here to just kind of demonstrate a point. But in this movie, he was a part of the Skull and Bones, which we're going to be talking about later. Yeah, and then after that, we're going to be looking at a clip from Eyes Wide Shut. It was the last Stanley Kubrick movie, and it stars Tom Cruise. But I mean, all of that to say, there's some interesting things about that movie that I'll just briefly describe afterwards. But here's a couple of clips for you to see.
I will remind you have all taken an oath of secrecy. You have been chosen to become members of America's most secret society. For over 100 years, Skull and Bones members have included a president, vice presidents, Supreme Court justices, congressmen and senators, captains of science and industry, the very best of America.
Their Wort des Vor, their Weise, their Bettler oder Kaiser, O Long, O Right.
You've never told anyone before. Your most guarded secret. Something you will need to trust us with.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Password, sir?
Fidelis.
Thank you, sir.
Sfința Domnul către ucenicii săi, poruncă nouă au voi. Sfința Domnul către ucenicii săi, poruncă nouă au voi.
Viața, pacea, sănătatea, mântuirea, cercetarea, lăsarea și iertarea păcatelor robilor lui Dumnezeu, închinător, militor și binefăcător, ai sfânt lăcașului acestuia.
Sfința Domnul către ucenicii săi, poruncă nouă au voi. Sfința Domnul către ucenicii săi, poruncă
Please, come forward. May I have the password, please?
Okay, so just on a side note, when it comes to Skull and Bones, There's actually a moment where the initiate is to bow down before two people. One is dressed as the white pope, which is the, popes like Pope Francis or whatever. But then you've got the black pope, right? And that is the pope that represents the Jesuits, right? They don't include that in the movie, and obviously why. I mean, they're not going to just reveal everything, and they definitely wouldn't reveal a Catholic connection, especially when, the people who run the whole shebang, it does get traced back to the Vatican. And then for Eyes Wide Shut, when it came to Stanley Kubrick, he had died during the pre-production, or the final productions of the movie. He died 666 days before the year 2001, which is an interesting connection. And, there's other things about Stanley Kubrick which are very interesting. I don't believe that he was saved. I do think that he was lost. He never admitted to believing in Jesus, and I think he even spoke against believing in Jesus. He was lost, I do believe, but he did present some very interesting things. When you play that reversed audio backwards, it's actually a Latin mass, right? It's why would he do that? And if you knew Stanley Kubrick and you knew his movies, very meticulous, very concentrated, right? No detail of those movies were ever kept to, whatever, we'll just leave it. No, every single detail was intentional. So why would he, as his, last movie essentially, be putting in a song like that? I do believe that he was, for one case or another, trying to reveal things about these secret societies, whether genuinely, as in he actually wanted people to know, or, maybe he was mocking people, as the title of the movie seems to imply, being that it's called Eyes Wide Shut, and most people are going to be ignorant to what they're actually watching. As being eyes wide open means that you understand what's going on, you're awake. Eyes wide shut means you don't really care what's going on. You're ignorant. So anyhow, that's it for that. So the chief surgeon says, "I have here a copy of the pledge, which you must take to this order. I have also a dagger," picking up from the table a dagger. "You will take this dagger, bare your arm, prick your veins, and sign this pledge with your own blood. Are you willing to take the test?" Chief surgeon says, "You must take the test, or you could not go on. Are you afraid of a little blood? There are doctors here who will see that you do not injure yourselves. Do you call yourself a man afraid of picking a little vein?" And the decoy says, "I cannot take such a pledge. You have no right to ask it." And chief surgeon says, "You will step aside for a moment. We shall take your case up at once." So essentially what had happened was the dagger, nobody's going to be pricking themselves with this dagger. That's kind of the whole trick to this whole thing. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that this type of stuff doesn't happen. So, on to the next chapter. It says, the organ plays and the guards lead the candidates to the hot box. When they are all in, the door is fastened, and masked guards are stationed inside and outside the door. The hot box must be small enough to make it difficult to move about easily without jostling. The captain of the guard is found inside and mingles with the candidates. He is as surely as he was in the anteroom, and the candidates feel the anger rising against him. The decoy priest soon complains of the heat and asks to be let outside. The captain of the guard refuses to let him go. They quarrel, and the decoy priest says he is going to go out whether the captain of the guard likes it or not. The guards and the decoys keep between the decoy priest, the captain, and the candidates. As the decoy priest starts to push the captain aside, the captain slaps him over the mouth, right? The decoy priest reels from the blow, and blood seems to flow out from his mouth. He has had some red gum in his mouth, which gives his sputum the appearance of blood. At once there is an uproar. Some of the decoys shout to be let out. Others pound upon the door, and the candidates are roused to fury and try to reach the captain of the guard. The inside and the outside guards and decoys must protect him and see that the door is opened before it is broken down. Then all rush out into the council chamber, shouting and gesticulating. They rush to the table, where the Grand Knight and the doctors are sitting. The Grand Knight and the doctors, assisted by the guards, try to make themselves heard. At last they succeed in quieting the confusion to such an extent that they can listen to the candidates, who desire to mount a chair and say what they wish. Chapter 12, Third Degree, Fourth Section. If necessary, a decoy starts the part. He stands on a chair and bitterly denounces the whole procedure. They came as gentlemen, as Catholics, to enter an order that has been approved by the Church. Never mind if it was approved by God. And they are subject to the indignities of drunken brutes. Even the sacred character of the priest himself is not respected. God's holy anointed is brutally insulted and even struck by a drunken wretch. He demands that the captain of the guard be summarily punished and thrown out of the meeting and the order, and that the real work of the order be taken up. When all have finished, the Grand Knight stands upon the chair and begs them to be patient. He deprecates this unfortunate occurrence. The man will be tried at once. 7 men will be picked from their number as a jury. The charges will be made in due order, and the verdict of the jury will be received as final. Are they willing to abide by such a procedure? They answer yes. The candidates are then told to sit down in the chairs around the wall, and the jury is selected. The Secret Service man is one of the jurors. The 7 are called to the middle of the chamber and lined up before the table. Grand Knight says, "Gentlemen, you must give up all your valuables and have your pockets entirely emptied so that you may hand nothing to one another during the trials." Right? So you're seeing here that all of their possessions are being stripped from them, kind of like in that first degree initiation for Freemasonry. I must ask the captain of the guard to go among you and receive all that you have on your person. The captain, amidst wild glares and murmurs, begins to take the things that the jurors hand over to him. Some generally are very angry at him and show it by their manner. Some do not care to hand him anything. The Secret Service man especially shows resentment, and at first refuses to give up anything. He objects to the procedure. One of the guards comes up to him and runs his hands over his clothes. He resists, and the guard calls out that he has a revolver in his pocket. The Grand Knight asks him if it is true that he has a concealed weapon. He says that it is true. He is a Secret Service man and always carries a revolver. The Grand Knight says, "You must give it up." Secret Service man says, "I will not give it up. I am under orders to carry it and never to allow it to pass from my possession." Grand Knight says, "Captain of the guard, you will see that this gentleman gives up his weapon." The captain steps up to the Secret Service man and asks for his weapon. Right. Suddenly, the revolver comes out in the Secret Service man's hand. Captain catches the hand and pulls it down, and then there is a flash and the sharp report of the weapon. The captain reels backward, and blood pours out over his chest. He falls into the arms of the guards. The captain of the guard has a rubber bag full of red fluid under his robe. This is pierced by a knife just before the shot and gives the delusion of blood flowing from his breast. Confusion reigns in the chamber, right? And God is not the author of confusion. The priests rush to give the man absolution. Some of the guards hurry away the Secret Service man, and the wounded captain is carried out of the anteroom, and the crowd is closed in the chamber. Experience has shown that the body of the candidates is always in a strange condition of mind during this period of waiting. The members go about and whisper of the terrible accident and hint of the scandal if the newspapers find out about the affair. If the Secret Service man dies, it will be the end of the Knights of Columbus. Dun, dun, dun. The dramatic climax is worked up naturally until the candidates are consumed with anxiety to know the worst. After 10 or 15 minutes, the door of the anteroom is opened, and the Grand Knight walks into the chamber, followed by the doctors, the Secret Service man, and a well-dressed man, clean-looking man, whom all recognize as the captain of the guard and the decoy priest. The Grand Knight takes the middle of the floor with the others around him and begins to speak. Grand Knight, gentlemen and brothers, when I have given the solution of the strange adventures which you have gone through this day, you will learn the most telling lesson ever devised to teach you that the things are not always what they seem. He turns to the decoy priest and pulls off his collar and rabbi, saying, Grand Knight, the Grand Knight saying, our good friend and brother here is not a priest at all. He bore all the outward marks, but the inner seal of the sacrament of orders has never been imprinted upon his soul. Right? He was playing a part, and that he played it well, I know. For I can see upon the faces of all of you the expression of relief which comes to those who awake from a terrible dream. I kind of want to say this point. You remember in 2 Corinthians chapter 11 where it says Satan is transformed into an angel of light? And yet here you got these people, and all they do is just wear disguises, right? All they do is just wear the costumes and stuff like that. Why do that? It's kind of fascinating. I mean, it's almost as though it's like, that's part of Satan's nature to disguise and to confuse, and yet it's like these people are following in his footsteps. Okay, so I'll just continue reading. And this good brother, turning to the Secret Service man and taking him by the hand, is not a desperate criminal, with the blood of his fellow upon his head. Our old friend, the captain of the guard, stands here beaming upon us. A short time past, you wished almost to tear him to pieces. You thought him a brute. You believed him a sacrilegious wretch, who dared to raise his hand against the Lord's anointed. It was a delusion. The good captain and the good pseudo-father had conspired together to deceive you. Right? Man. See how they love each other. The two shake hands heartily. Brothers, take this lesson to heart and bear it with you in all your activities of life. Judge not by appearances. Things may not be what they seem. Suspend your judgment until there can be no mistake. Then act. Remember this lesson. Cherish it in your hearts. Yada, yada, yada. So I thought it would be interesting to talk about Hiram Abiff, as it seems that this kind of takes a few cues from the Masonic practice. This is from Wikipedia. It says Hiram Abiff, also known as Hiram Abiff or the widow's son, is the central character of an allegory presented to all candidates during the third degree in Freemasonry. Hiram is presented as the chief architect of King Solomon's temple. He is murdered inside this temple by 3 ruffians after they failed to obtain from him the master mason's secrets. The themes of the allegory are important of fidelity and the certainty of death. Okay. And here is Hiram Abiff, found at St. John's Church in Chester, which was created in 1900. Okay. Actually, we're going to be looking at this a little bit further. But you can see right under his feet the black and white tiles. Remember black and white? Well, there's an interesting connection to point out with Freemasonry and black and white, you know. Okay, so this comes from the Grand Lodge of Ohio. The article is called King Solomon's Temple and Freemasonry, a Framework for Self-Improvement. That's the first paragraph up above. And it says, related to the construction of the temple, Masonic tradition records the legend of Hiram Abiff in the third degree. Right? Third degree. Okay. The allegory describes Hiram Abiff as chief architect working alongside King Solomon and Hiram of Tyre. Construction of the temple lasted years, and members of the craft were frustrated with the longevity of the building process and the time required to advance in their titles and expertise. 3 demanded Hiram divulge the knowledge of a master mason in order to accelerate their advancement in masonry without the required years of experience. Upon Hiram's refusal, the men struck him dead. Okay. There we go. It's like, you know, you got this ceremony in the third degree where it's like all of a sudden, you know, people are trying to, like, you know, people are dying, you know. All acting, of course, you know, it's like there's a reason for all this, but I'm making a connection here. Right? I'm pointing out it's like, okay, this ceremony that you're seeing with Knights of Columbus is also in Freemasonry. Why is that the case? Okay? There's so many things, and we haven't even gotten through everything yet. But it's like there's even more connections, you know. Anyhow, this is from Wikipedia. It says rituals in Freemasonry refer to King Solomon's temple. Rituals in Freemasonry refer to King Solomon and the building of his temple. Masonic buildings where lodges and their members meet are sometimes called temples, an allegoric reference to King Solomon's temple. Right? And here you see the black and white tiles, right? Black and white. Okay, remember? It's like you got the marbles, right? But then you also have the black and white Pope. Okay. But you see, yes, it's like there's so many connections to already the Knights of Columbus and Freemasonry. Ultimately, I would imagine Knights of Columbus is probably even setting up people to join Freemasonry and maybe other fraternities as such. Okay, here's another example, right? This is another illustration of all of this, right? And then there you go, tarot card, right? The High Priestess card, and you got Boaz and Jachin, right? Black and white. Does it ever describe it as black and white in the Bible? No, it doesn't. So yes, this is malarkey. Okay, all of this is Catholic tradition. Okay, so I'm just going to skip over most of this, and I'm going to be looking at kind of like the end of this chapter. It says at the end, it says, all must be united in one grand and glorious band of humanity under the one Mother Church. Remember, brothers, that the church alone has the truth of God, not the Bible. You will never hear them once talk about the Bible. We are her children. We must spread the truth. We have been given this blessing. As Knights of Columbus, we shall learn how to bring it to the whole world. Okay? So they're all going to bring everybody under the control of the Vatican. Interesting. Okay? This is my charge. Think on these things. Cherish the memory of this hour. Raise your right hands and repeat after me this pledge of fealty to the order. I now solemnly pledge myself to keep sacred the secrets of this order, to be a loyal and true son of the Church, and a faithful member of the Knights of Columbus. I will always be ruled by knightly courtesy in my relations with my fellow men. I pledge myself to God, to his holy church, to my country, to mankind, to be always in a true knight. Amen. It is well, brothers. I shall now declare this council adjourned, either for recess or until the next regular meeting, according to the arrangement agreed upon beforehand. The older members will greet their new brothers and extend to them the courtesy of council. Right? So, yep, you got your oaths. It sounds pretty similar to what that guy was saying in the beginning. And you can see it's like, yes, it's like, okay, very, very manipulative, very deceptive. And their end goal is to bring everybody under submission to the Pope, under the Catholic authority. People who are involved in it, people who, may even say it's like, oh, I'm not involved too much with it, but I show up every once in a while. They are directly, if not indirectly, participating in this advancement. Okay? These people are wolves, and I would recommend strongly staying away from them.